not just it's a lot. It's my masterpiece, whatever that means, right? But it's definitely a expression of my soul. So
Understanding it, I've always said that when art really comes from the soul of the artist, then you know it's going to be good.
a few months ago, the St. Louis Budget Committee decided to cut spending. They had already cut the library and the schools and band and shop and English, public transportation, healthcare, housing, sewage, and roads. Did I miss anything? Anyway, the leaders of SWAT had a choice: fire someone or come up with an elaborate plan to make themselves indispensable, even though they hate it here. The plan, well, it goes about as badly as it possibly could. March 16th, 2022. In the criminal justice system, sexually based offenses are considered especially heinous. In New York City, the dedicated detectives who investigate these vicious felonies are members of an elite squad known as the Special Victims Unit. These are not their stories. These are not their stories at all. This is the story about the cops other cops don't know even exist. They aren't the guys who deal with rapists and pedophiles. They deal with the stuff that would give those special victim knobs the screaming purple Henrys. This is the Secret Wizard Assault Team.
What's going everybody? It's Webster Style, the man, the voice, the fragrance, here with a wonderful comic creator, Justin Cope. Justin, how are you doing today?
Hi. I'm doing great. Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I got contacted about you and your comic SWAT, and sounds like a really interesting sort of mashup of some magic and police. So tell us about SWAT.
Well, it's short for Secret Wizard Assault Team, and it's kind of like what we do in Shadows meets The Wire, I guess. I mean, it is
Yeah.
supernatural comedy, but it's also kind of well, it's not kind of, it's a drama at the same time, right? And but it's basically just my unhinged brain, just going at full force, just going as crazy as I can. Um, yeah. So.
Okay. What prompted you to create the series?
It just sort of came out of nowhere. I started writing comics. I wrote a whole series, Edge of Darkness, and then after that, I was just sort of sitting around. And I think J.K. Rowling did something obnoxious on Twitter, and it sort of sparked a let's do a Harry Potter thing, and it kind of just went from there. It was all very subconscious, very like just kind of out of the blue, and that's usually a good sign for me, right? When it's just sort of a lightning strike, it's good stuff. So,
Understood. Understood. Yeah, I'm the same way in my creative process. Times so a lot of times it's just if it's out of the blue, yeah, okay, I need to just capitalize on this right now because I may
yeah,
lose it, but also it's happening now, so I need to do it.
yeah,
Sort of thing.
yeah. I mean, a lot of it. I mean, most of it's just coming out of your subconscious. So you just got to roll with it, and do what it does, if that makes sense. But I mean, I'm definitely a pantser. I'm not one of those guys that starts with an outline of every chapter. I just don't. I can't do that like at all. So it's all. Um, it's kind of coming out. I feel like it's sort of like a well, and you can drain it, and then you're done for a while, and it has to refill, right? Uh,
Yes, I
there's
totally
no.
understand that analogy.
What do
So
you write?
well, when I do write, I end up writing poetry. So a lot of things just come out of the blue, in the shower, or I see something that inspires me. I just have to start writing and they get it out, and then it's like nothing, and then I get hit again after writing it. So I definitely understand about that well analogy.
Yeah, this is probably sounds super pretentious, but I kind of feel like comics are the closest I can get to poetry. I try to write it, and
Hmm.
but no one seems to give a shit. But with comics, you know, it hits, right? People are like, yes, let's do this. So, um, but yeah, no, I mean, I really do. It's, like I said, it probably sounds pretentious, but the dialogue, the way I view the dialogue interaction, I want it to sound good, you
Right.
know, and I want it to scan basically. So there is an element of poetry to it. I'm trying. I don't know, you know. I'll say I'm
But no,
trying.
I understand all we can ever do is try, but also I would think that, you definitely want to have an element of that poetry in the dialogue, especially one to keep readers engaged, but also for it to have, especially you talk about that weight, that drama, that to have the weight of either or. You want to sort of have that prose as well to really convey the ideas that you're trying to express from the characters from the page into the readers. They're thinking of everything up in there. So
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely helps, right? Like if the total package is very, I feel like it's pretty poetic, honestly, at its peak, right? Or it could be. Oftentimes, I don't think it is, but that's fine. You uh, but who are your favorite poets?
I always go back to Poe. I've grown up in Baltimore. That's one of the poets we always read. So
Hmm.
I have this love affair with Edgar Allan Poe and The Raven and Annabelle Lee and just the way he wrote. Um, that's probably the one I keep going back to. I read a lot of Rita Dove in high school.
Hmm.
Um, so I say probably those two. And Langston Hughes, it's somebody we read all the time at elementary school, had to memorize, and County Cullen as well. I'm a fan of his works.
Okay, cool, cool. I kind of I'm one of those. I don't know. I like to. I try to read a lot of modern poetry. Um, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. I'm very bad at lists. So, but.
I understand. With SWAT though, you're working with Rachel Disler. Have you two collaborated before?
No, I mean this is actually the first series comic thing I've ever gotten to this point by far. Um, I jumped into comics at like 40, right? I had been writing novels for like 25 years before that. I got very frustrated. Started writing comics. I'm like, it was an explosion of like, this is where I should have been the whole time. And looking back, I realized like I was really just doing comics, but I was trying to do them in a novel format, and that's a big part of why they weren't translating that well. I don't think.
Mm,
Um, the discipline of the comic format of you got 21 pages to get shit done, that also cuts the amount of crap I can throw in. So it's you have a brevity discipline kind of built into the whole genre,
right.
which has been very helpful for me. Yeah.
Understood. I can, yeah, at 20, 21, 22 pages, that definitely cuts down the crap. You have to really, fine tune like what's important,
Everything
what needs to be here.
everything needs to cut. Everything needs to be sharp enough to cut. And if that you're doing that, you're probably in good shape. If you're not, you're not. But yeah, I mean it's weirdly structured, right? You have 21 pages, maybe 22,
Hmm.
to do a thing. You have to tell a story, starting in the beginning. I mean, even within the context of the overall story, but you still have to deliver in the 22 pages, and then it's also completely free, right? You can do anything in a comic, right? A
Right.
race of robots that have CR cathode ray tubes for heads.
You do
Sure, fuck it, right?
it.
Right. The more unhinged and insane, the better. So it's like it's. I really like it. I mean, it's just it. You can do all these things, but you also have this structure that keeps you grounded, and that has just been. I feel like I'm doing the greatest stuff I've ever done in my life in comics, honestly. So.
Well, that's awesome here. Now, I want to ask you, you talk about being a novelist. And in my mind, especially with some of my limited experience, I always see writing comics as far as writing movies. I've heard many people talk about how there's really no difference in when you structure and like storyboarding, and like literally the panels are like storyboards. How much of a transition was it from you to go from writing novels to writing comics?
Well, my first series, Edge of Darkness, which will probably be kickstarting in September, but I did the first 6 or 7 pages with my artist, right? And he's like, "Dude, this is 2 pages. There's no way to do this in 1 page."
It's like the rhythm and the like what is actually feasible from an artistic perspective, and I'm filling in the dialogue and all that. Like balancing all that was the hardest part, but um, you know, it's I don't I feel like I took to it like a fish in water. You know, honestly, it just felt it's hard to if I told you how amazing it was, you would be like, this guy's an asshole. You know what I mean? Like it was a lightning bolt, and I just felt like I should have been doing this my whole life. I just didn't. I thought about doing it before, right? But I was too cheap to pay for an artist, and then I have to learn a whole new format and then pay people. This is crap. I can't. But now that I'm doing it, I'm like, this is where it's at. This is where I should have been the whole time. So
Understood. And I would say you won't sound like an asshole. There are some things in life, and I've learned this personally, where you start to do something, you realize like, oh, I'm kind of like a natural. This like I really just get it. It clicks. So no, I think that's for everybody. Once you find something and it clicks, it clicks. That's just what it is.
I'm very grateful that I finally found it because I spent 15 years grinding. I wrote like 10 novels, and they were not short novels, grinding it. And I learned a lot from it. I appreciate that I did. I'm glad I did it and everything. But, it was genuinely like joyful to start writing comics and get into that. And I think that shows up in SWAT, honestly. It's a very happy, as grim and like bleak as it might seem, there's a core of like, I'm just having a blast writing this that I think comes through. So,
Understood. Now, this is issue one is currently up on Zoop for crowdfunding. What's the, I guess, overall trajectory of SWAT? Are we talking about like 6 issue miniseries? What's the plan?
36 issues. I've
Okay.
written all of it. It's all done. I probably need
Okay.
to tighten up the last 10 issues of dialogue, but it's all done. Um, on the writing side, the art is not done, which is why we need to raise money because that shit is expensive.
Right.
Uh,
Understood.
I did the math. It's going to cost about $118,000 to get it lettered and do the art, like total. There's 760 pages or so. So it's a huge thing.
It's a
But no,
huge
I
thing.
wrote all of it. I've written this. I've written the sequel, the first 4 issues of the sequel, like 3 times. That's been a lot
Hmm.
harder than the first one.
Mm.
That's been difficult. But
Okay. It's weird you say that. It's like it's a lot of money. I understand, but spread out between 36 issues. It's like,
if you start bringing in money, then it becomes okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But I'm
But
thinking
I can't
even
fund that on my own,
no, no,
right?
you can't. No, I'm thinking sort of objectively, not so much coming out of Justin's pocket, sort of thing. Objectively, okay, that doesn't sound too horrible when you grand scheme of things, but coming out of anybody's pocket when you don't have it, that's a horrible concept unto itself. So I
Yeah. I
totally
mean,
get that.
I got a mortgage. I can't do
Yeah,
both. So that's why
no,
we're crowdfunding it.
I feel
Uh,
you on that one.
yeah. So, um, no, but I mean, it really is. I mean, well, it's whatever the ultimate judgment is, it is definitely the purest expression of me that I've ever done. I feel very intensely about it. I'm very proud of it. I think it's really good. So there you go. But it's not just I mean, it is a supernatural comedy, but it's a lot more than that. I mean, to me, I feel like there's kind of a millennial experience of just sort of like it starts with Columbine really, and then 9/11, and it's just sort of been watching the world get fucking shitty and dumb over the last. I mean, that's I was in high school when Columbine happened. 9/11, I was a sophomore in college, probably maybe junior. Um, so basically, my whole adult life has just been watching everything sort of fall and or go to crap, and that's a big part of what SWAT's about. Is Larry is kind of a stand-in for he's the average Joe millennial, right? In that I don't know if you've read the 6 or 7 pages, but it starts with basically Columbine, but it's also Hogwarts, right? It's and it starts there, and it kind of Larry's just sort of a beat down, tired guy who he's 40, he's looking at his pension, he's living in an apartment, and he's just sort of got that frustrated feel that I get off of reading, just sort of the internet. Basically, it's my read on the American people right now. It's just sort of like, when is it going to stop?
I share
And
your sentiments.
so it's a lot about that. So it's not just it's a lot. It's my masterpiece, whatever that means, right? But it's definitely a expression of my soul. So
Understanding it, I've always said that when art really comes from the soul of the artist, then you know it's going to be good.
that's where I'm coming from at this point. Is it's just like if it's a genuine expression of the artist, then it's at least worth respect, even if I don't care for it particularly, right?
Right.
But no, I mean, SWAT is it's crazy, it's fun. I never lose sight of the fact that this is supposed to be fun. It's chaos. I'm having a blast with the whole comic format. I mean, it's one point the villain we have there's multiple villains, but one of the relatively minor villains is a guy named Count Von Zollen, who is a goblin / accountant / pirate who sails the seas auditing people to steal their shit. And it's that kind of it's unhinged, and but it also, I don't know, I'm rambling, but
No,
I
it's fine.
yeah.
Rambling's good. You're talking about something you love and you're passionate about. That's what we tend to do.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's super exciting to finally get to this stage. Like, I've been wanting to be a writer my entire life, but I could never quite figure it out until now. But that Zoop campaign is sort of like, I feel like it's the start of my career as a writer, much delayed. I've had 2 novels published. That's weird to say, but that was a disaster. So whatever. But
Understood.
yeah.
You talk about writing inspiration. Are there any writers, whether novel or comic writers, that inspired you along the way?
Well, I mean, Harrow County by Cullen Bunn is kind of what got me back into comics, right? I got the giant library editions. I was just staring at the art, and it was amazing. The story was fun. I mean, when I go to the comic store these days, it's mostly indie stuff, but I've read most of the indie stuff that's on the shelves at this point in the last few years. Saga, Chow, Monstrous, Paper Girls, Giant Days. The comic scene is really a lot of fun. I think it's amazing.
Yes, I agree.
There's a ton of stuff going on. I mean, I'm always like, today I went to the comic store, and so there was it was Joker War, Batman, and there was Joker War, Batman Detective, and those were crossovers to the same thing, but they weren't the same thing. I'm like, how is anyone who's not already into this supposed to figure out all this? Like,
Right.
there's other things where there's 4 different crossovers you have to buy, and it's just, so I've been a little, I've just been more, it's not that I'm not trying to be snotty about superhero comics. It's just like, it's so confusing what is happening that it's intimidating to get into. But I read the James Tynion Batman or Joker Wars, or no, it wasn't quite Joker Wars. He did write Joker Wars, but the other one. It was quite good. I mean, I enjoy superhero stuff when it's the right time, but it's like, I just feel like I'm jumping in halfway into a 10-hour-long movie, basically, and so it's been a little intimidating there. But indie comics are amazing. There's a ton of cool stuff going on there. But anyway, writer-wise, Jeff Lemire, he's awesome. Rick Remender, Marjorie Liu, there's tons of them. The guy who wrote Giant Days, whose name I don't remember, that series is not a standard comic thing at all. It's just like it's like 3 girls going through college in England, but it's really good. But I don't know. James Ellroy, I think, was a major influence on me. The Underworld trilogy. I don't know. Have you heard of that?
Yes.
That stuff is beyond hard boiled, right? I mean, like, it's just telegraphic almost. To the point where it's off putting at first. So if you ever try like the Underworld trilogy, give it a shot. Like, give it 100 pages. But it's fascinating how much he can do with such minimal a minimal palette. Um, Cormac McCarthy. I read The Obscene Bird of Night by Jose Donoso recently. That thing is described on the back as an insanely psychotic gothic thriller. Yes. So that one's worth checking out. There's just, I mean, I read a lot, man. I mean, I have been on a path of reading everyone I possibly could for 15 years. So there's a lot of influences going on. But right now I'm reading this. And this Miko is a nut. She's absolutely unhinged. So I heartily recommend. But there's that. There's all kinds of things I read. I shouldn't list all of them, or it get boring. So,
well, that's fine. I love one of the things I love about just when you're creating, we take sort of the pieces of all of the people and all the things that inspire us, and that fuels us to create. So it's always interesting speaking with creators to see, okay, what inspires you? What gets you motivated? What gets like, oh, this is awesome. Like I want to do this. I can do this. Like, no, that's perfectly fine. I think that's amazing.
I also read a lot of like academic history, and I go through it with a highlighter and I note it for story prompts, because you find some insanely weird like stuff no one would ever write because it would be too crazy.
Hmm.
Happens regularly in history. Read it, highlight it, steal that shit. It's all public domain. It's totally
Right.
fine. Legitimate game. So yeah, I have a bunch of history books with just like 100 tabs in there for every crazy thing that happened. So there's a lot. I mean, history's awesome anyway. I mean, it's an unending nightmare, but it's awesome in many ways. Um, I mean, there's a ton of great literature out there right now going on. So
I agree, and history is awesome and scary, definitely, but it is awesome still. So
I tell
SWAT,
myself they don't write the books about the nice stuff because that's boring.
you got a
It looks
point.
like an unrelenting nightmare because that's the interesting bits, but there was people having a nice time that whole time. Like the Roman Empire fell, but they had a great life or whatever. I don't know. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, they had a great run.
Yeah.
Exactly. So SWAT, tell us about SWAT and where they can support you.
So it's on Zoop, which Zoop.gg, which is apparently way more obscure crowdfunding site than I realized when I signed on. But anyway, they've been great. But yeah, it's just there. If you click on it, you'll see me like on the second row. Um, and we're just doing a crowdfunder. Pretty basic. We have temporary tattoos. We're going to have trading cards and a bookmark, all as add-ons, but mostly it's variations on the issue. Um, and yeah, so it's like I said earlier. Let me just run down, I guess, the cast. There's Mabelina, who is about 45, and she's had a rough life. But her deal is she thinks she's a fake psychic, but she's actually a real psychic. In that, she always makes the worst possible decision, right?
Mm,
And so they kind of keep her around as a reverse canary in the coal mine, where if she's really enthusiastic about something, you don't go that way. That is not where you go. Or you put her in a room with a bunch of murder or suspects, and then the one she gets the number of is the murderer, right? That kind of thing. So she's sort of
mhm.
an anti-psychic, I guess. There's Tiny Tim, who's about this tall, and he's sort of their wet work guy. He has a magic murder bag where he can reach in and grab whatever he needs.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, I didn't realize how powerful that was when I invented it, and then it sort of ended up taking over so much of the plot. Uh, but I kind of made a commitment when I started writing SWAT. I'm like, I'm going to follow through with how dumb it's going to get with the
Right.
magic, right? Like I'm gonna use it. If I have a time turner, I'm gonna use it to its fullest. And so that bag ended up kind of becoming way more important than I ever thought it would be. But turns out being able to get whatever you want and also transport to an alternate dimension and stuff, powerful. I don't know.
Comes in handy.
Yeah, it ended up coming in way more handy than I thought. There's Lisa, who's kind of the normal person. She has no magical abilities. She's there as punishment for testifying against some other cops. Um, Larry, Larry and Mimi, who are the survivors of the original Meriden massacre, the Columbine stand-in. And then there's Hermes, who's like 3,000 years old, and he refuses to retire, but he's very senile. And that's the initial setup, right? So,
Okay. And when is the deadline that people can support you?
the end of this month.
Okay.
Right? It's the campaign started on the 2nd, so I guess it's probably going to end September 2nd, technically, but basically by the end of the month would be great. We're already like 25% of the way there after 3 days, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm pretty, especially as somebody who has like no fan base whatsoever. I'm trying to build it as I go. I think that's pretty solid. We should be able to get there. But yeah, I mean, we got a lot of different options. The PDF starts at $7, which isn't too much. No shipping and handling there. And then
Right.
if you want all the add-ons and stuff, I think I can go up to like 24.
Which is reasonable.
Yeah, I definitely tried to ride the line there of not gouging, but also, when you're expecting to sell maybe 200 copies, if you're doing great, you've got to amortize that artist pretty hard. So it's not going to be a normal comic price. But yeah, no, it should be a lot of fun. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Justin, thank you for your time. Outside of the Zoop link, is there anywhere else you want anybody to go to find out more about SWAT or anything else you're working on?
The Zoop would be the main link. I'm on Facebook as Justin Koch. You'll recognize my photo. Justin Koch on Blue Sky, and then Justin Koch 6161 on Threads. If anybody wants to look, mostly Facebook is probably where I'm at. Mostly, if you're looking for updates. So.
Okay. Thank you, Justin. Appreciate it, everybody. Make sure you check out Zoop and you go support SWAT. It looks like a really great time as far as the comic is concerned. Thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for your listening here. Justin, thank you for your time. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. You guys take care, and we'll see you next time.